It's Phil the MMA Dude back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 125, here with my always brilliant and beautiful co-host, the Fight Geek. Fight Geek, how you doing this week, bro?
Doing pretty good, man. Happy to be back talking fights with you. How's it going?
Going well. We've got a lot to discuss today, folks, so here's what's on tap. We're going to start off with my opening question for Fight Geek. After that, we're going to jump into the recap and review of UFC 271. Then we're going to do a very, very quick preview of Bellator 274, Gracie versus Storley. Then preview and picks for UFC Fight Night, Walker versus Hill, also quick. And then my favorite section of all, listener questions and more, and Fight Geek. We have to end the show by doing shoeies. It's all your fault because you agreed. You agreed to Juice's challenge, and now we actually have to do them because you thought Ty wouldn't win. And I just wonder if you feel bad about that because I'm really not looking forward to this at all.
I mean, it's hard to feel bad about the whole experience because Ty is so cool and he got such a big win. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to taking a drink out of one of my shoes at all. But
do you feel bad about me having to take it because you kind of included me when you said,
I'll
do a shoe?
I actually feel better about you.
You feel better about? Oh, great. Oh man, with friends like this, who needs enemies?
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So let's start off.
Hopefully, Juice enjoys it. So.
I think everyone's going to enjoy it, especially if I start vomiting, which I probably will, especially looking at this shoe. The shoe I have, folks.
Don't psych yourself out, Phil.
Before I move on, this shoe is from I think I wore this literally during this is like a nice shoe. I was trying to pick one that I hadn't used too much, but oh my God, it's so used, it's so dark on the
There was some methodology that went into it, because I kind of looked at the lay of the land as well. You're going with a dress shoe, huh?
I'm going with a dress shoe that I haven't worn for a while, but it's very worn out, so I'm extraordinarily concerned. It's from Banana Republic. I see that on the sole right here. This is going to really suck. I hate you, bro.
All right, well, we can get into all that later.
All right, okay.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So, let me start off with this question for you. Israel Adesanya won a unanimous decision over Robert Whittaker, 48-47, 48-47, and 49-46. And it appears that his next title defense will be against Jared Cannonier. My question for you is very simple. Israel Adesanya currently has 4 consecutive title defenses at middleweight. Kamaru Usman currently has 5 consecutive title defenses at welterweight, so one more. At the end of their careers, Fight Geek, who is going to have more consecutive title defenses in their respective weight class, Kamaru Usman or Israel Adesanya?
Kamaru Usman.
Really? Wow.
I feel pretty strongly about that. I don't see Kamaru losing again. I don't see Kamaru losing again for the rest of his career. And as a matter of fact, I think that Usman is widening the gap between his competition. And I think what we saw this last weekend and a couple times sporadically throughout Izzy's run is that his class is actually narrowing the gap and catching up to him. Hence, such a close technical fight with Robert Whittaker this weekend that I think you actually scored for Robert Whittaker.
Don't worry, we'll get to that.
I think it's quite the contrary. I think they're both, one is, gaining on his competition and the other has competition gaining on him per se.
That's fascinating. So last question about that. I feel like a lot of people listening right now are probably asking, well, what about Khamzat Chimaev, who obviously is a welterweight right now, not a middleweight? Is that going to, do you see Usman beating Chimaev, or is Chimaev not going to get there?
I live in reality here. The best thing we've ever seen Chimaev do is beat the Leech. I'm not going to just assume he's going to dominate or beat one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen. He's got a little more work to do, and if that fight was put on paper, I couldn't in my right mind make a case for Chimaev to beat Usman.
Okay.
Could he beat him? Maybe, but what's on paper and doesn't say that he can beat him yet.
Okay, so related question. Chael Sonnen said on his show yesterday that he thinks that Khamzat Chimaev making a run at welterweight is a really big mistake. He thinks very strongly that Khamzat should be at middleweight, that's going to be a far easier and faster path to the title shot with Adesanya, that he matches up better with Adesanya than he does with Usman. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think Khamzat's in the right weight class?
I think he actually is right in a perfect spot to fluctuate back and forth. He's a big welterweight. He's rangy. I don't know if you've seen any shots of him training at Tiger Muay Thai recently, but he's a big guy. So,
yep.
If he can make welterweight, we've seen a lot of elite guys really kill themselves when they're young in their career to fight in a class where they're huge, a la Conor McGregor. I think I like him at welterweight. He has more advantages there. But is he probably more of a natural middleweight? I would say so. So I don't really feel strongly one way or another. I think he has something to offer at both, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no doubt that he has something to offer at both. I guess what I was getting at is that in my opinion right now, welterweight is one of, if not the most stacked division in the UFC. And yes, I'm not forgetting about lightweight, guys.
And it's so stacked, and Usman is beating the challengers, twice now. He's lapping the field.
But then you look at middleweight, you compare the middleweight contenders, I think it's so much thinner. It's such a skinnier division.
Well, it's true. That is true. But, to assume, because Chimaev knocked out Gerald Mearshart that he's going to beat Israel Adesanya is a big stretch.
Right. That's fair. Okay, all right. So are we ready to move into our recap and review of UFC 271?
Let's
do it. All right, guys, we're going to start off at the top of the card and go down. So we're going to begin with the main event, Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker. Adesanya won via unanimous decision, as Fight Geek just kind of insinuated. I did score the fight for Whittaker, rounds 3, 4, and 5. Before anyone gets mad, I can already hear the listeners getting mad. It's worth noting Chael Sonnen and Brian Campbell from Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell's Morning Combat both scored it 3-2 for Whittaker. I'm just curious, Fight Geek, how did you score the fight?
Yeah, I've listened to all the stuff. This fight was super close. I scored it, 3-2 for Israel, and I gave the 2 rounds to Robert of round 2 and round 5. That's how I saw it the night of. I know that some of the action was extremely close in the 3rd round, so that could be the swing round.
And the 4th. A lot of people say Whittaker won the 4th.
I just, it comes down to one of those things is not only, are you fighting perception, but, you got the refs trying to decipher action that's so close. I mean, it really was just, a kind of a limited technical battle. It didn't seem like either guy was wanting to overextend in any way, and they were just willing to kind of let it play out. It seemed like Robert was trying to be the more offensive fighter from my point of view. Whether or not he was being overly successful, that's up for interpretation. But yeah, I thought it was a clear 48-47 for Israel Adesanya.
So that's interesting because you said 48-47 Adesanya. Okay, nothing crazy there. But then you said you gave Whittaker rounds 2 and rounds 5. So I think there's no question that everyone gives Israel round 1 and everyone gives Whittaker round 5. I think 2 through 4 is where it gets interesting. I scored it 3-4-5 Whittaker, but I thought that second round was extraordinarily close, almost impossibly close to score.
Yeah, round 2 and 3, I mean, it's really hard to kind of break apart, who was, really having damage there. Robert was doing some good things technically with attempting to get him to the ground and having some control time.
He got takedowns.
No, I know he did, but Israel was up fairly quickly, and there was I think he landed 3 heavy shots, some of his better shots on Israel throughout the whole fight, but it wasn't sustained damage and it wasn't sustained control. So it was more of, basically an extended scramble.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I am now done giving my Israel Adesanya shade, so everyone can go back to...
Shade? I mean, there's no shade here.
No, I know there's no shade, but everyone is such a crazy fan of his, especially big media personalities. I just think he gets some big advantages.
I don't know. I think he's obviously an all-time great fighter. When you start comparing him to guys like, Anderson Silva, he's got a ways to go numerically as far as title defenses to be considered the GOAT. But, people who are maybe newer to the sport don't understand that Anderson Silva had some defensive stinker fights too. His Damian Maia fight, his Talis Leites fight.
Oh, yeah.
They were terrible title fights, so much that Dana White was like so mad. I think he was threatening to cut Anderson Silva or strip his title.
He was threatening to strip him, for sure.
So people giving Israel such a hard time for the Romero fights and the Whitaker fight here because he was very, very defensive, really relied on, the low calf kicks and never really put his foot on the gas. I think you have to remember, that not every, title defense is spectacular.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a credit to Israel to being incredibly intelligent and figuring out how to retain his title versus clearly his toughest challenger. So I think Izzy showed you a lot, with the IQ, obviously, City Kickboxing, Volkanovski, all of those guys are laser sharp when it comes to their game plans, but not overly, it's hard because Israel is dangerous, but I never felt like he was going to knock out Robert in that fight. Did you?
Absolutely not. Not even. I was going to say not even.
He knocked
not even when
at
Israel looked great in the first round.
But I felt like Robert got up, kind of was disappointed in himself, and then came back in round 2 and was laser focused. And Izzy really didn't build on that knockdown.
No, absolutely. So I wanted to ask you this because I've been thinking a lot about this fight. Of course, I rewatched the fight several times. And it's been occurring to me, I think I saw this on Twitter first, so this isn't my original idea, but I thought it was really true. Someone wrote that Israel Adesanya has become in many ways like a late career John Jones, and they said specifically what they mean is that he's the longer, taller fighter in the division, and he uses his length to bully smaller fighters and win point fights. Is that too harsh, or is that true?
Well, I don't think it's harsh at all. I think it's accurate. It's not harsh to call somebody,
a point fighter.
A defensive point fighter. If that's what is on, the film, that's what's on the film. I do think there's a lot of similarities between him and John. I think that you really go hard on John. I still think John mixes in some really unique things.
Jones is a great fighter, of course.
And technique-wise, John still hits you with that front kick to the knee all the time, always messing up your timing. John, when he's parrying, really goes at your hands a lot more, where Israel really leans back. So, But as far as, not being overly offensive and just using their IQ and defensive prowess to win, I think there's similarities there.
Okay, let me ask you this now before we move on. So let's say that Israel gets through Jared Cannonier, which, by the way, I like that fight. Cannonier certainly deserves it. I think it's the fight to make, absolutely. If Israel beats Jared Cannonier, would you prefer to see him sit and defend his middleweight belt more, or would you prefer to see him move up? Because I for one, Fight Geek, I really don't want to see Strickland versus Adesanya. That sounds like punishment.
No, but let's say after, Chimaev...
Strickland has no chance. I don't want to see it.
Maybe he gets a chance to go up to 185 and make some noise. I still do want to see if Chimaev could be a challenger for Adesanya. So I think that's definitely...
That's so far away, though. That's so far away.
It is far away, but I didn't like the way Israel looked at 205. He's not powerful enough to really impose his game plan. He's already... not overly offensive. So,
yeah.
And those guys are going to have a huge size advantage when it comes to, getting him down. Maybe grappling becomes a bigger deal because he's clearly elite with his defensive grappling and takedown defense at 185. I'm not sure that that's something he takes with him to 205.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so
let's just say, not that he would ever fight Glover or whatever, just hypothetically, Israel goes up and gets ground and pounded out by a guy like Glover Teixeira. Just think of what that does to your legacy long term. So I just don't really think 205 is a great fit for him.
Yeah, that's fair. I would also have Glover in that fight. Okay, so I was going to say last question on this fight is, we know who's next for Israel Adesanya, Jared Cannonier. I think most people are pretty more than okay with that. I for one, am excited for that fight. Robert Whitaker, what's next for him? I would love to see a 5-round main event against Sean Strickland.
Yeah, or Marvin Vettori.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I just want Sean to lose, so I'm just trying to think of what can make sure he loses.
I think, none of that's really interesting for Robert, I think...
Well, that's for sure, but...
Yeah, but, to be honest, I like the Vettori fight more as far as a contender fight. But, yeah, Robert Whittaker versus Sean Strickland could be, a bounce back fight for Whittaker to get some momentum going.
Okay,
again.
So hang on. If you prefer Whittaker Vettori, now I'm curious. So then who does Sean Strickland fight? Who would you like him to fight? Brunson? Or?
Well, I almost like, Strickland versus Jared Cannonier for a #1 contendership, because Jared Cannonier just got beat up by Robert Whittaker, who's lost twice to Israel. So the MMA math says that it's not, a lock.
Jared's getting that title shot at UFC 275.
But I'd rather see. Give Sean Strickland Derek Brunson's retirement fight.
Yeah, I like that, by the way. I like that fight.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a winnable fight for Brunson, but it's also a name for Strickland to build his resume on and retire Brunson, so that could be a feather in his hat. So I think that's a no-brainer, actually.
Okay. I know I said last question. I clearly lied. So at the very beginning of the fight, before the fight started, Whittaker put out his hand to touch gloves. Adesanya covered it as if it was rock, paper, scissors. A lot of people thought this was very funny. Like Adesanya beat him before it started. Rock, paper, scissors. He's being paper on top of Rob's rock. I thought it was kind of tacky, poor sportsmanship. Am I being a no fun idiot or what?
Well, Israel's tacky. He dry humped.
I just thought it was so tacky, dude. Like rock, paper, scissors. Like, what are you doing, man? What are you 5 years old?
You're surprised this coming from the guy who humped Costa?
The Costa humping, I thought, was a little more justified in all fairness. Costa had been calling him a bitch for almost a year, had been trying to demasculinize Israel.
Adesanya, and Robert Whittaker have had plenty of back and forth, and actually Izzy's been trying to manufacture beef with Robert since way before the first fight.
Yeah, that's true. I just thought it was bad. I know everyone loved it, guys. I know the most people listening loved it. I thought it was bad sportsmanship, to be honest. But
I'm indifferent. It's not any more bad sportsmanship than dry humping your opponent after defeating.
Come on, Paulo deserved it. I admit that.
I'm just saying, you can't be you're talking out of both sides of your mouth right here.
Not really. I don't think, because Whittaker's very different from Costa.
You're up on your high horse about his sportsmanship in one fight, but you're not the other because you don't like the other guy as much.
No, I think Costa said a lot of things that Whittaker did not say.
No, you're just a Whittaker homer, so you didn't like it.
Oh, jeez, here we go. Oh, my God.
All right, can we keep it moving?
Let's keep it moving. Tai Tuivasa defeats Derek.
The star of the night, in my opinion.
I completely agree. Defeats Derek Lewis via TKO from elbows at 1 minute and 40 seconds of round number 2. Thanks to you, we both have to do shoeys since you were so sure Lewis would win, so thanks a lot for that.
Well, you know what? I didn't expect for Tui to eat 4 shots, hammer fists from, Derek Lewis while he was down against the cage there. I think almost 99.9% of the roster gets TKO'd in that situation. Tui just stands up, and you can see visibly the expression change on his face, and he just starts throwing back. One of the coolest sequences you'll see by a heavyweight ever.
Oh, absolutely. Tai, for the record, is currently on a 5-fight win streak with all 5 fights ending by way of stoppage. It's truly incredible to kind of see Bam Bam's turnaround career-wise. I think I've mentioned
evolution. He's a young guy. He lost a few fights versus some vets. He's 28. He's heading into his prime. He's developing.
He fought smart. He didn't just stand and bang.
I know, but he was also fighting Junior Dos Santos at 25 years old, and Blagoy Ivanov, who's bulletproof.
Yeah.
So, he had to take his lumps, and he did, but I don't think there's any question that with 5 straight wins, 28 years old, and the kind of poise and chin he showed, that he's a legitimate contender at least.
And not to mention, obviously, the crowds fucking love him. This whole shoey thing.
Well, yeah, Tai has the opportunity. That guy ever captures a belt, he's an absolute superstar.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So let me ask you this, plain and simple. Tai Tuivasa, he's currently ranked number 3. He jumped up, I believe, 8 or 9 spots in the rankings. Who would you like to see? Who's next for him? Who should he fight next if you're his manager?
Who should he fight next if you're for a title shot? I know the heavyweights are all booked, but Blades or Rosenstrike, one of those two.
What about Gane?
I guess I could see that. Gane versus Tuivasa. I actually like Tui's chances versus him. Maybe more than like a Curtis Blades, who has the opportunity to just get on top of him and pound him out.
Yeah, I think we all agree that Ty would not do well against Curtis Blades, for sure.
Well, I mean, he may catch him. Curtis Blades has been one shot knocked out like 2 different times, I believe, right?
So yeah, that's true.
I think someone in that. Who's Rosenstrike fighting? Because I think that's probably the fight, but
I'm not certain. I'm not sure exactly who Rosenstrike. Does Rosenstrike have a fight? Are we sure that he's got a fight?
Well, who's fighting Volkov next?
You're asking me questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of heavyweight fights booked. I'm sorry, it's not coming to me, but I definitely think someone in that group. I mean, you could go Gane, Rosenstrike, or Blades, one of those 3, and then that would be the real step up.
Yeah, so just for the record, Ty is ranked as the number 3 contender behind only number 2 Stipe Miocic and number 1 Cyril Gane. Curtis Blades sits at number 4, and I believe that is it Lewis Volkov or is it Blades Volkov that's happening? Oh my gosh, I feel bad not even knowing this.
Exactly.
But yeah, in any case, I personally think that Ty should,
because he's not getting a Stipe fight. I think that with Francis, having his surgery and the contract negotiations, John Jones versus Stipe for the interim title makes all the sense in the world for an interim.
Is Jones really fighting? Is Jones going to agree to fight at heavyweight?
I mean, well, where's he going to fight now? He put on all that extra weight.
I mean, everyone's always saying, whenever I bash Jones or say Jones isn't going to fight at heavyweight, everyone says, "What are you talking about? Don't disrespect John." And I'm saying, guys, you don't have to try to argue with me. You need to argue with John. Argue with John, because there's no one that believes less in themselves at heavyweight than John Jones. I mean, Jones is the one who doesn't believe in Jones at heavyweight. So, got to talk to Jones about it.
Yeah, all right.
Am I wrong?
I don't know what the deal is. I don't know what the hang-up is. I don't know. I mean, I don't know why it's always so hard to get Stipe a fight. It's so bizarre to me. Stipe always seems like he wants a fight, and the UFC can never book one. Strange.
Yeah. And same with John. I mean, and it's worth noting that Jones has been teasing a fight with Stipe for well over 4 years. So,
But, I mean, that's the fight to make. He doesn't – I mean, if Jones is going to go to heavyweight – that's the fight he has to take. That's the one that, I mean, he doesn't risk dying in his debut.
Honestly, I think Stipe is going to be a lot tougher for John Jones than a lot of people are assuming.
Well, he's going to be tough regardless, but the skill sets match up. I mean, John Jones isn't going to be able to implement his power versus a guy like Francis Ngannou.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he probably will be able to have at least an equal strength, matchup with Stipe.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, are we ready to move on?
Are we?
I think we are. All right, so
yeah, let's do it.
Jared Cannonier, in my opinion, got absolutely dominated in the first round against Derek Brunson. I thought Blonde Brunson won the first round arguably 10-8. But once the second round started, Derek just looked like a deer in the headlights. Jared Cannonier walked him down eventually took him down and got the finish, via TKO through elbows. And it was an extremely impressive performance. So what do you think?
Extremely brutal as well.
Brutal. What did you make of Jared's performance, and what did you make of Derek Brunson's performance?
Well, I picked Jared Cannonier. I mean, Jared Cannonier's a former heavyweight. I mean, he's got massive power, and I knew that Brunson just gets hit too much to get hit by that guy too much. So I assumed, a lot of heavy shots were coming Brunson's way. Brunson obviously has evolved and has a good game plan and can get guys to the ground, and he can wrestle and he can win rounds, but he still is a little awkward on the feet and still takes shots. So when you got a guy like Jared Cannonier moving forward and landing those heavy I mean, everything that comes from him just looks thudding through the screen, and those elbows were just brutal.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely. I thought it was an incredible performance, incredible comeback from Jared. Again, I like the Cannonier-Whitaker fight. I really think that Cannonier has a chance, not a huge chance. I obviously favor Israel, but I think that Jared's in with a real chance, and I think that's the last middleweight contender.
It's still kind of crazy that to this day, Gastelum is the guy who came the closest to really putting Izzy in trouble.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then I off the top of my head, isn't Gastelum like 2-5 in his last 7? But
that sounds right.
He literally was a sliver away from beating, one of the greatest fighters in the world.
Absolutely. I think it's crazy. Okay.
All right, let's keep it moving. I wanted to call out Renato Moicano versus Hernandez. I thought this was the best performance of his career. He looked amazing everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. Totally agree.
And at lightweight, he looked bigger. It looked like he had put on some strength, some power. He was in great shape. And, yeah, he just really flossed on Alexander Hernandez, in my opinion. Very impressive.
Yeah. Alexander Hernandez, oh, man. I feel like he just... With all the cowboy trash talk, I think he'll never be flying under the radar again, and that's more of a curse than a gift, in my opinion. I think people come kind of pumped up to fight him, to be honest.
Yeah, I could see that.
So, but absolutely agree with you. Renato Moicano looked absolutely amazing with that rear naked choke at 1 minute and 23 seconds of round number 2 over Alex. And yeah, who would you like to see Renato Moicano fight next at lightweight? I'll just give out a quick answer. In my opinion, I'd like to see him face either Mateus Gamrot or Diego Ferreira.
Yeah, I like the Diego Ferreira fight. I think that makes sense. Yeah, that's the one I was going to call out.
Yeah, I would say Brad Riddell, but moving on to the Bobby Green defeating Nasrat Haqparast fight. Wow, did Bobby Green look great, and I think he should be fighting Brad Riddell next.
Yeah, that's a good fight.
What did you think of Bobby Green? I want to talk about him quickly. I think it's crazy how much he's improved.
I called this last week. I told you he's going to be way too slick for a guy like Nasrat Haqparast, who has power and likes to stand in the pocket. But Bobby Green is slick. He's got 41 MMA decisions. He's incredibly comfortable, confident. He kind of has that Diaz bro swag to the way he fights. The open palms. Saying what, and getting in and out.
And he's got amazing distance control. Amazing.
Oh yeah, well he's probably the most underrated boxer on the whole roster. I would say nobody ever puts Bobby Green in the top boxer conversation, which is stupid to begin with. But he's a very crisp striker on his feet. Doesn't throw a lot of kicks. It's all from in the pocket. It's all straight. It's all swaggy. Love watching Bobby Green. And if a guy like Brad Riddell's not available, Renato Moicano versus Bobby Green's a fun one too.
Yeah, as long as one of them gets ranked with the win, since they're both unranked. But I agree with you. I like that fight as well. I definitely agree with John Anik saying that Bobby Green needs a main event now.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, so Andrei Arlovski wins a split decision over Jared Vanderaa. But Arlovski is absolutely crazy. Obviously, he was UFC champion at one point. He's had a rough go of it, but he's currently won 5 of his last 6, and it's pretty incredible. What do you make of this late career surge from Arlovski?
Well, he's just a guy who's super dedicated to his craft, and versus the Jared Vanderaa of the world, he's gonna have success. He's still in good enough shape. He's a thinking man's fighter now. He's got very good technique for, a heavyweight. So as long as he's not going against the top 7 or 8 guys in the world, I think he's going to have, more success to come.
Yep, absolutely. So the next fight is Casey. I did want to cover Casey O'Neill defeating Roxanne Modafferi. It was her final fight, retired afterwards, but Casey O'Neill won a split decision. I thought she should have gotten the unanimous decision, climbed to 9-0. What did you make of this fight? It was a fun firefight.
Yeah, I picked Roxanne on a flyer last week. I thought Roxanne went out there and did her best, gave Casey some problems in the first round, busted her nose, gave her a black eye. made her have to fight through some adversity, but I think you just saw the difference in physicality and athleticism really show through in the end. Love Roxanne. Hats off to her. Nobody embodied kind of the fighting spirit better than she did. So, yeah, it was a good send-off for her. You know, she kind of wanted to go out on her shield, and you could tell she was really giving it her all. And Casey O'Neal's no, pushover. That was a tough fight to take in your retirement fight. Definitely has the looks of someone who will be around for a while at the top.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely liked Casey's kind of defiant post-fight comments, right? She was getting booed, and she was like, fuck you! Want to boo me? I'll be the bad guy, fine, no fucking problem. I mean, I liked it.
It was her ally Aquinta moment.
Absolutely. Boo me? Boo you! Don't fucking boo me! I totally agree. And then really quick, I did want to give a quick shout out to Roxanne Modafferi. The reason I have so much respect for Roxanne, I know that she's a little bit, some people love her, some people hate her. She finished 25-20 in her career, obviously not the most elite record, but what I really respect about her, Fight Geek, and I want your thoughts, is I thought that she just kind of encompasses the every woman, the every man. She was not a particularly talented mixed martial artist when she started, but man, did she wring every single ounce of talent possible out of herself. And she just kept improving and getting better up until the very end. And I have nothing but respect for that.
100%. And she gave Casey O'Neal a fight, even though she won.
Yeah.
Like I said, she was landing shots on O'Neal. She was in there till the end. They both pushed for 15 hard minutes. So, yeah, it was a good fight.
Absolutely agree. Moving on, very quick. We're not going to cover every fight here, but I had to cover Kyler, the Matrix Phillips, defeating Marcelo Arroyo via submission, via triangle armbar at 1 minute and 48 seconds of round number 3. Man, I thought the Matrix Kyler Phillips looked real good.
Yeah, he does. He's a good-looking prospect. He's had a couple great performances. This was another one. I've been a fan of Kyler Phillips. Excited to see where he goes from here.
Absolutely. Do you have a specific bantamweight in mind for Kyler Phillips? Not to put you on the spot, but anyone that jumps out to you that you'd like to see him fight. I personally would like to see him fight either number 15 Rafael Assunção or number 14 Song Yadong. I think sounds fun to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
any of those work.
Perfect. Okay.
All right, and then Carlos Ulberg. Obviously, everybody's talking about how good looking this guy is. What do you think as far as the talent goes?
Honestly, I thought a lot of people were saying how good looking Kyler Phillips was, and at least I thought Kyler had a more impressive performance for sure than Ulberg did. I know that Ulberg won, and credit to him, but I was not blown away by his win over Fabio Cherant, to be honest.
All right. And then I just wanted to call out one more. I thought it was fight of the night. The Douglas Silva de Andrade comeback versus Morozov. That fight was awesome.
That was crazy, man.
That was a blood match right there. Andrade was in big trouble early.
Morozov drops him badly.
Yeah, dropped him bad. Andrade fought his way back to his feet. His arms were full. He was shaking them out to end the first round. And then was able to come back in round 2 and really turn the tables in a dramatic way. That was an awesome fight.
Absolutely agree. And I know we said that would be the last fight, but we did lie. I need to talk about quickly Jeremiah Wells defeating Blood Diamond, Israel Adesanya's teammate, via rear naked choke at 4 minutes and 38 seconds of round number 1.
And that dude didn't move that was crazy. He didn't move.
He didn't move. I thought Blood Diamond did not look good. I was not.
Yeah, well, he's a 3-0 mixed martial artist going against a guy who's much more seasoned. Again,
not to be harsh, but
it doesn't matter how cool
you can't name yourself Blood Diamond.
How cool your name is. It doesn't matter, what you look like or what your training partners say. When you're 3-0, that's a dangerous place to be in the UFC.
Yeah, I thought Blood Diamond looked very unprepared for this level, and I think if he's thinking long term, I question if the UFC is right for him right now. I'm being dead serious.
Maybe in four fights down the road,
exactly.
When he's actually seen a couple, couple situations.
Exactly. Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. So, anyways,
because apparently he never fought a wrestler before.
Yeah. I mean, for real. For real. Okay, so moving on really, really quickly to Bellator 274, Gracie versus Storley, the welterweight main event. I'm just wondering who you've got. Do you have Neiman Gracie or Logan Storley? It's a great fight.
I'm going to take Neiman Gracie. I think Storley will push the pace, but the wrestler versus the elite jiu-jitsu guy, I think he'll stick his neck into something and lose via submission.
Hate to agree with you, obviously. Can't help but agree with you. I do think that Neiman Gracie's gonna get that submission at some point, and I'm gonna just pick the third round. Although it is 5-minute rounds, despite not being a title fight. This is a new thing for Bellator, and I look forward to the change, but I think Neiman Gracie is going to get him in the third.
Yeah, that's good. I'd see probably, Storley will need to get a little wore out, so third or fourth round.
Okay. Anything else on this card before we move on?
No, sir. Let's keep
All right, moving on to UFC Fight Night, Walker versus Hill. This is Johnny Walker versus Jamal Hill. Obviously, this used to be the RDA versus Rafael Fiziev card. Not going to lie, I was really excited for that main event. I am really, really unimpressed with this card, guys. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If you have a male or female acquaintance that you're in love with, that is willing to go out with you on Saturday night, I would recommend you do take it. I know that's controversial. Go on a date, guys. This card ain't for everyone. Is that bad that I said that?
No, I think it's...
I mean, come on.
It's a little dramatic, but that's on brand for you. Let's break it down. Come on.
True. All right. So who you got? Walker versus Hill. I mean, I'm just so disappointed. I really wanted Fiziev.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fun fight. I like both of these guys. I think Johnny Walker gets it done here. He's shown a willingness to implement a game plan. Jamal Hill has shown some tremendous upside, but like in his Paul Craig fight, I think sometimes he's a little overconfident. So, I'm going to roll with Johnny Walker here, and I think Johnny Walker beats him in a decision.
Yeah, I've got Johnny Walker via split decision. I think it's going to be an awful fight. So I look forward to this. Hopefully this all ages poorly for me and the fight's great. So
right.
Hopefully that's what happens. Okay, really quick, the co-main event, Kyle Daukaus, 10-2 versus 13-6 Jamie Pickett at a catch weight of 195. I think it's a real interesting co-main. Who you got there?
100%. I think Kyle Daukaus gets it done pretty easily with his hand speed. I think he probably stops Pickett. I think 195 is interesting though.
Yeah, I hate to agree with you, but I do have to agree with you here. I've got Kyle Daukaus stopping him as well. And then any other fights on the card that you wanted to cover?
Yeah, always got to call out Jim Miller fighting. Jim Miller on the card fighting Nicholas Mota. Don't know a ton about him, but always pulling for Jim Miller.
Yep.
Joaquin Buckley versus Abdul Razak Al Hassan has KO all over it.
I got Joaquin Buckley. I think Buckley's going to find a way, but yep.
So, other than that, no, I'm good.
Okay.
Or actually, okay. Jessica Rose Clark's interesting. Diana Belbita, I'm a big fan of her.
Right. Yeah, Diana Belbita is interesting. Jessica Rose Clark is interesting. They're both super babes. Might be an unprofessional way to put it, but having said that, though, I'm not like super intrigued by the fights, if I'm being honest. Diana Belbita versus Gloria DePaula. I've got Belbita winning. I mean, she should. DePaula's 5-4. Jessica Rose Clark versus Stephanie Egger.
I think Jessica Rose Clark could have problems. I think that's a closer fight than you're giving it credit for.
It's closer than Belbita versus DePaula for sure.
Yeah. So I don't think either of those are bad fights. So.
Okay. All right. Very fair. All right. Are we ready to move on?
Let's do it.
Okay, guys, so after this, we'll be right back with listener questions and more. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude letting you know that this episode of the Split Decision Podcast is brought to you by TotalAggressionClothing.com. Visit www.TotalAggressionClothing.com and use the promo code 46210 to receive a special split podcast discount on all Total Aggression hats, shirts, hoodies, and more. Again, that's www.totalaggressionclothing.com with promo code 46210. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 125, and it is now time for my favorite section of all, and that is Listen
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. All right, Fight Geek, you got anything for us? You got something to?
Yeah, I got one queued up from Eric Buchert.
Eric Buchert.
He says, should Bobby Green's next fight be a fight night main event, and who would you put him up against? I think we kind of touched on this, but definitely think he needs a 5-round main event. A fight night sounds perfect. And
yep.
I'd like to put him in there versus another legend if possible. So maybe like if I know you want him to have a top 5 guy, but let's say Cowboy Cerrone gets a win or Jim Miller gets a win. Maybe someone like that in a fight night main event.
Wait, a top 5 guy? No, he doesn't need to be top 5. Top 15.
Top 15, excuse me. Top 15.
Okay. You were saying Cowboy potentially?
But I don't know if, Bobby Green versus our man Sarkurian is a main event, is it?
That's a good point. By the way, I would favor Armin. By the way, that's a tough fight for Bobby Green.
Absolutely. So what I'm saying is if they're going to put Bobby in a main event and reward him, you're going to have to put him in there versus someone who he can win against and has some name value,
I like either number 14, again, number 14 Brad Riddell or number 15 Diego Fajeda.
Okay, yeah, we said we like those. You think those are main events? Brad Vidal's a little closer.
I mean, I didn't think Johnny Walker versus Jamal Hill was a main event until they made it one, to be honest.
Touche. All right, let's keep that moving.
Okay. So next question, I'll take a look on my side. Comes from, our man, Zan Bando 99. Love this guy. He says, I have 2 questions this week after a wild weekend in MMA. Here it goes. 1. Would a win for Jamal Hill put him in title consideration? If not, what would he have to do to get there? 2, is there one UFC Vegas 48 upset that you like on Saturday that no one's talking about? #AskSplitPod. That's a fun question. So let's start off with the first one. Would a win for Jamal Hill over Johnny Walker put him in title consideration? Absolutely not.
No, it wouldn't. It would definitely put him on the title contention map.
I mean, Walker's ranked as the number 10 contender.
He would still need to fight, an Anthony Smith or someone like that after to get there.
Absolutely. I think without a shadow of a doubt, he would still have
Anthony Smith would
more.
Probably be, a good dance partner for whoever wins this fight.
Yeah. I mean, I really don't disagree with you. I know that he was planning to do a rematch with Alexander Rakic, but then that ended up falling through. I don't know if Rakic has another fight yet, but he might. So I guess we'll see.
All right.
Okay.
And then is there any upsets you like from this weekend?
Yeah. I was. Thank you. I was looking at that. So. That's a great one. I love when you ask. Zan's always challenging us, man. I love that about Zan. He's always asking hard stuff. He doesn't give us any breaks, and I respect it. So I would say the biggest potential. I think there's 2. I think that Abdul Razak Al Hassan could potentially upset Joaquin Buckley. Although that's not my official pick. My official pick is actually one fight before that, the main fight of the prelims. I think Christian Rodriguez, who is 7-0, could definitely defeat 11-4 Jonathan Pierce. So that's my number 1 pick for upset.
All right, well, we'll roll with that one then.
Okay, all right. Moving on again. We've got this question from Jamal, the son of Thomas McTavish at McTavish Clan. I'm pretty sure this is Cyrus King. Love Cyrus. And he says, how shook were you that Derek Lewis literally folded like a chair? Was it just the case of having a younger chin? Hashtag AskSplitPod. Yeah, this is interesting because, as you probably know, Fight Geek, some people were accusing Lewis of taking a dive after eating that right elbow.
I heard all that. I don't think he took a dive, but, I definitely think there's obviously Derek Lewis has never been, the best cardio, the best conditioned athlete. So when he gets drug into deep waters, we've seen him, I don't want to say quit, but we've seen him kind of throw in the towel and just kind of live to fight another day. He was taking damage. He was winded. He was on his back foot. That elbow landed heavy. But yeah, I think there was a lot of components that went into him kind of, giving in the way he did.
Yeah, I think you nailed it right there. And Chael Sonnen kind of said as much in that, when you throw everything at your opponent, especially early in a fight, and then they not only are still standing, but they kind of step forward after you've thrown everything at them, it can be really tough mentally to recover from that. And I do think that happened.
Well, not only mentally, it's tough physically. Derek
well, of course,
Lewis
you're exhausted.
In great shape, so if he thinks he's got a finishing sequence and he's exerting all of his explosive, power for, a 5-minute span, and then he gets up and he's on his feet and he's not able to defend himself because his arms are all blown out, that's part of it. He's not able to sustain that over, very long. We've seen really he can't sustain it much longer than, 2.5 rounds max.
Oh, absolutely. And and as you know, the fight was stopped in the second, so it was way less than that.
Because I can't remember, didn't Mark Hunt do something similar to him, finished him up against the cage, and he kind of just keeled over and gave in?
That sounds absolutely correct.
So the fact that Derek Lewis, I have to just double check because
I'm pretty sure you're right. I'm pretty darn sure you're right.
But, because Mark Hunt being a training partner and an influence to yeah, exactly. An influence to Tui might have given Tui a little extra confidence. His mentor had already, finished Derek Lewis. That kind of knocks some of the intimidation off of it.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Okay, so moving on to the next question. This one comes from a Split Podcast OG. That's Eduardo. That's at Landa Crew, LandaCrew. What are your thoughts on Ali's impact on the UFC? Do you genuinely believe he just has a great relationship with UFC and Dana, or do you think his fighters get all the best matchups due to secret corrupt reasons? Hashtag AskSplitPod.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, but, Ali has played his cards right. He's acquired, very powerful clientele, important clientele that he represents. I think there's no denying he's the most powerful agent in mixed martial arts. So, yeah, I just think that, he's got a stable of guys who are unbelievably loyal to him. And, yeah, with that being said, a handful of them turned out to be champions, current champions, and champions of this generation. So at this time, he's kind of that guy.
Yeah, very, very hard to disagree there. Do I think that Ali might have something on Dana? Yeah, absolutely, guys. Absolutely.
I mean, does his fighters get favorable fights? Yes, they do, because Dana likes who he likes, and if he has an established working relationship with Ali, which it's clear he does, and he's willing to work with Ali, Ali's fighters get a lot more fights a lot quicker than Abe Kawa's fighters, right?
Oh, of course. So you don't, look, I'll be the first to come out and say it. Obviously, Ali is a far smarter person than either Kawa brother. Let's just come out and say that because it's the truth. But
well, when you look at the field and who's representing, he's the man right now.
Absolutely.
It's just the way it is.
But I was going to say, but I do believe that he has something on Dana. I'm sorry, I just do. Maybe that's negative of me, or maybe it's a conspiracy theory type of my opinion. But I just think he does.
Or maybe he's just not that shrewd of a negotiator, and Dana knows that he can deal with Ali and get the Frankie Edgars of the world and these big name guys for reasonable deals.
That's another very real possibility. I can't defend my response more than I did because I have no proof. It's pure speculation. So I think that's a good point.
100%.
Okay, all right. Moving on to our man, King Richard. That's at @V_King Richard_V. Love this guy. He says, with Ty getting to do another shoey over the weekend, it led to a conversation with my wife, and I'll now ask you all the same question. Who are the most entertaining fighters that you've watched? I listed 5, so I'll just ask y'all to do the same. All right, so Fikey, you've got to come up with your top
fighters.
5.
Are we going exclusively UFC or just fighters in general we've ever seen?
I mean, I think we better go exclusively UFC just to keep this kind of on the rails, even half on the rails.
Okay, well, the most exciting fighters I've ever seen, Anderson Silva, Conor McGregor.
Tito was entertaining in his time.
He was entertaining. I'm just trying to think of really, really dynamic styles and guys who stuck out.
I've never really been bored from a Max Holloway fight, so I would throw him in.
Yeah, for me, I would put Justin Gaethje on that list.
Yeah, that's another good one.
Clearly, Nick Diaz. I mean, if you go watch Nick Diaz's Strikeforce run, it's amazing. Yep. His Gomi fight is amazing. Actually, we're saying UFC, and I called out Nick's Strikeforce career.
That's okay. That's fine. We were asked this question short notice.
And you know who else? I've never, as a big TJ Dillashaw homer, I've never been bored in a TJ Dillashaw fight.
That's a good one.
His footwork, his competitive nature, his diligence in a game plan. He's just a really intriguing, exciting watch, in my opinion.
I totally agree. So the last one I'd throw in real quick is I actually have, and this was not the case before. I've really grown into loving the style of Peter Yan. I think he's great.
For sure, very explosive. Just not as much depth to his career. He's only I think 7 fights into the UFC or something.
Well, sure, but we're not comparing careers yet. We're just talking about entertainment.
That's true.
But yeah,
I think a guy who I really liked when he was young was Barbosa. Obviously, the spinning wheel kick knockout and kind of how fast and explosive he was.
Loved Robbie Lawler. Loved Rory McDonald even.
Yeah, Rory McDonald, one of my favorites, no doubt. So yeah, I mean, again, we could go forever. But to me, the elites of the elites, Anderson Silva, Conor McGregor, Nick Diaz. That's probably my top 3.
And if you put a gun to my head and made me choose a really old school person, I would definitely say Randy Couture. I mean, he is just...
He had a wrestling heavy style. I didn't really think he was that
I mean, yeah, I hear
exciting. I would say like Pride Vanderlei Silva was just an animal. He was crazy scary.
So but you'd probably say that you think that Uriah Faber wasn't an interesting fighter because he had a wrestling heavy style.
I thought Uriah was super interesting, very exciting.
But he had a wrestling heavy style, did he not?
He did, but he was more, that athletic wrestling style where he was involved in a lot of scrambles and a lot of, out of the normal positions and quick scrambles. Yeah, he wasn't just pin you up against the fence and methodically get to your back, which I didn't mind because I was a Tito fan. That's how Tito fought. Right. I thought that was extremely exciting when Tito would get, a guy like Forrest Griffin down and be able to hold him there and not be beat up on his feet.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've got a question from Juice, Friendly Sparring Podcast, @Friendly Spar Pod. He says, gimme that shoey. It's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Very soon.
Thanks a lot for nothing, Fikey. Then from @Zoe Yours Truly. I love that handle. I love that. @Zoe Yours Truly. Hey, fellas, I don't know if anyone asked this yet, but who would you guys like to see do a shoey, and would you partake? #AskSplitPod. Well, I think the answer is me and Fight Geek, and we're about to do one, and it's going to suck.
Yeah, I second that.
Yeah. Okay.
So stay tuned.
Yeah. Oh, we just got one 2 minutes ago from a Split Podcast OG, Louis, Maser Louis. That's @MASER Louis.
And we always miss Louis' question, so I'm glad he snuck it in this week.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Louis. Why would you say that? Why are you trying to put us on blast? Okay. #SplitPod. What is at stake for Johnny Walker against Jamal Hill? Where does Johnny Gofi loses and where does Jamal Gofi wins? Personally, I think Anthony Smith is a good matchup for the winner. Wow, Louis, you read our minds because we pretty much just said that, didn't we?
Absolutely. So, yep, great minds think alike.
Yeah, we agree with you. Anthony Smith, we definitely agree. Okay, so I'm just trying to see if there's anything else we haven't addressed. Do you have Paulo Kelly's question? There's a few audio.
Yep, I got Paulo Kelly's question, and I also have MMA by Milliken's question last week that came in right after we stopped recording.
Oh, hell yeah.
So we'll go ahead and get to both of those now. So here's Paulo Kelly.
Podcasts that you've done recently. Great to see you continuing, and congratulations on reaching 125. My question now is going to be about the upcoming fight that we have in April, which has been billed as the biggest women's fight of all time, which I'm calling bullshit on. I consider this to be one of the biggest fights of all time, which is Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano. The question is basically, who have you got for this one? And do you think Katie Taylor, as one of the most technical boxers, one of the most beautiful boxers that taken somebody apart with her jabs, can avoid the clinch and the dirty close-in boxing that Amanda Serrano has? She's much more physical, and Katie may struggle. I have this fight honestly closer than round 4 in Izzy versus Whittaker that we seen this weekend. So, your thoughts, guys? Peace and good luck to you both.
I love Paul. Paul's the man.
Awesome question. I really appreciate Paul calling out the Katie Taylor versus Serrano fight. It is going to be interesting.
I have a pick. I want to hear yours.
I can't give much more technical breakdown than he just gave. I think it's pretty cut and dry. I'm pulling for Katie Taylor. I like her style, like you said, very technical. So I'm going to take Katie Taylor via split decision.
Oh, this is annoying. I have Katie Taylor via unanimous decision. And I thought Paul did a great job kind of breaking it down. You know, Serrano's probably got a little bit more power. Katie's more technical. I do think that Katie Taylor is going to win. I've seen, I believe, the last 3 Amanda Serrano fights, and I've seen the last 2 Katie Taylor fights. So, you know, admittedly, I haven't watched all that much of both, but I just think Katie is the crisper, cleaner striker, and I do think that as good as Amanda Serrano is, and God knows she's amazing, I think Katie Taylor is going to get this done via a close, unanimous decision.
Awesome. Great question. And I have one from MMA by Milliken.
Milliken!
Fellas, what's going on? The Split Decision Podcast. Hello to all your fans. It's MMA by Milliken. What's going on, Fight Geek? I hope everything is good with your new addition to the family. Good luck with that. Phil, what's going on, man? What is up? Your girl, Lauren Murphy. She gonna be back soon. Aren't you excited? Aren't you excited,
so excited,
man?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Going up against Miesha Tate. What are your early thoughts on that fight for both guys? What are your early thoughts on that fight? What are your thoughts on Miesha Tate cutting down? Should we laugh at her and tease her like children if she misses weight? You know, she had that beef between her and Aspen Ladd, and then the cheating on the scales. What if she can't make flyweight? Do we laugh? Do we condone it? Do we act like mature adults and just let it go? How do you see that fight going? What if Miesha does well in that division? What if she does beat Lauren Murphy? How do you see her? Should there be a good, solid build-up between her and Valentina now? Or should it be something that's kind of wait to build up? I mean, Miesha's up there, you know, in age. I don't know how long she's going to be around. What do you guys think about that? And are you even excited about her being there? Take care. Have a good one.
Yeah, great question.
Love it.
I fully expect Miesha to make weight. You know, she's always been super professional. This is a new weight class for her, but I don't think she would take the chance if she didn't think she would make it. Definitely like her chances against someone like Lauren Murphy. Think she'll be this more skilled fighter and probably get a decision victory and then if that's the case, I think it sets up for a fight with Valentina immediately. I mean, that would be the biggest, most interesting name Valentina has seen in a while.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that would be a no-brainer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's what I was going to say, largely what Fight Geek said, but, I would just add, Milliken, yeah, I think that if Misha beats Lauren Murphy, who I believe just contended for the title not long ago at all, yeah, that definitely should give Misha the jump to I think, jump straight into the octagon with Valentina for the belt. Like Fight Geek said, that would be one of the more exciting prospects and one of the more exciting big-name stars that Valentina, has fought recently. So, bring it on. I love Misha's move to 125. She's a professional, so I'm sure she'll be able to make the weight. And yeah, I think it's a great fight.
Agreed. I'm interested in how that plays out. And while I don't love Misha's chances versus Valentina, it is a big name to put on the other side of the headline.
Absolutely. Okay, so do we now have to address the elephant in the room, the shoey, Fight Geek?
I think it's time to pay the piper, man.
Oh, God. Here I go. Okay, hang on. So I've got a blackberry White Claw. Oh, my gosh. And I've
got a Blue Moon Belgian White.
Okay, hang on. I'm about to pour it into the shoe. I'm pouring it. Oh, my God. Dude, this is disgusting. Why did you make us do this, dude? I mean, seriously, man. Oh, Bam Bam's not going to win. Yeah, let's agree.
Now.
All right, ready? All right, go.
3, 2, 1. Oh, there you go.
Oh, that was
juice.
Okay, can I say something honestly? That was disgusting, but that wasn't quite as bad as I thought it'd be. And it was disgusting, but I mean, at least there wasn't any particles. I
kind of want another one. That was refreshing.
It was oddly refreshing.
No, maybe not that far, but
okay, all right.
Well, words, we've paid our debt, so we hope you guys enjoyed that.
I feel like I'm going to throw up, so with that, yeah, just go ahead, Fight Geek, and take us away, man.
All right, as usual, you guys can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, and more. I'm at the Fight Geek MMA. He's at Phil the MMA Dude. We are at Split_podcast. It's 4 words, the Split Decision Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you next week. Peace.
Peace.